Commissioner, how are you?
Nicole just went to get.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, how are you?
You can hear us?
Are we waiting for another?
Or we're waiting for Janity.
Okay. Oh, here we go. And then, good afternoon, everyone. This is a resumption of today's budget review. It is 1 o'clock, and we are kicking off the afternoon session with the Department of City Planning. Their budget can be found on page 361. And then at 2 o'clock, we'll bring up the Solicitor's Office, and we'll close out the day with the Office of Public Defender. So, Commissioner, we have your handouts, so thank you for sending them. And if you're ready, introduce us to your staff and take it away.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I am Janae Prince, the Commissioner of City Planning, and I've brought with me some members of my executive team. To my right, Janity Sidafal, Deputy Commissioner, Doug Young, the Director of the Office of Design, Greg Pace, the Director of the Office of Buildings, and Kieta Holmes, the Director of the Office of Zoning and Development. We have a number of our key staff members here with us today. Raise your hand, staff. And they are here in case y'all have any very detailed questions that we need them to dig into. But I'll go ahead and start with the presentation. Just to start, to introduce the Department of City Planning. You know, 50 years ago, we were called the Department of Budget and Planning. Mayor Maynard Jackson created the NPUs and the Comprehensive Development Plan and had a charter amendment to memorialize both of these, to institutionalize them. He did this to bring more voices into the process of planning, and we continue to do that today. We work on anything from long-range planning 20 years out into the implementation of our plans at the parcel level. Just to illustrate this real quick for you, I know that you all are aware of the Comprehensive Development Plan process that we've been going through, and we'll bring you the adoption for that. The adoption will be in July, but we had 7,000 unique voices involved in this process, and we're coordinating and collaborating both internally and externally to bring these plans together and to bring them to life. We're doing all of this to advance the Moving Atlanta Forward agenda. Make sure our slides are working. So the organizational chart introduces our department. We have 5 offices. There's the Office of the Commissioner. And in our office, we have the business operations. And I want y'all to know that my 2 key finance people are both out either having babies or taking care of babies. So we have asked the finance department to help back us up with some data. Don't drink the water in TCP. We also have our neighborhood planning unit team, our marketing communications team, and our GIS team in the commissioner's office. In the Office of Design, that's where we do our long-range planning and our historic preservation. And it turns out our World Cup coordination. Office of Buildings, that's pretty obvious. It's permitting and enforcement. Office of Zoning and Development, that one is also self-explanatory. And we have our Office of Housing and Community Development, and we do neighborhood level economic development and community development, and we do a lot of housing work in the Office of Housing and Community Development. So you have all your names here for your go-tos. Let me talk a little bit about fiscal year 25, the year in review. What did we do this year? Well, we've been really busy. We've completed the comprehensive development plan. I mentioned that before. We broke all of our community engagement records for the city. This plan is a true representation of what our citizens want our city to be. You want to know what they said, you just look at that document because it's all right there. We're also well into the work on our zoning ordinance now. The last time we rewrote the zoning ordinance was 1982. There are big changes coming because the ordinance we wrote in 1982 was back when the city was trying to compete with its suburbs. And so it's written in a very suburban way. This ordinance is an ordinance for a big city. We've also launched the Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative work in the mayor's priority neighborhoods that you'll see on this map here. We're working on our affordable housing. We have 165 projects permitted. We're 4,150 affordable units towards the mayor's 20,000 unit goal. We have reduced our multifamily permitting times from 175 days to 58 days. And we've improved our single family permitting times down to 33 days. This is fast. We've hired or repurposed 23 positions to work on our affordable housing work stream. And that's how we get the affordable housing permitting done so fast. This year we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the NPU system. We introduced our African American History Series. The next event is coming up on June 21st, I think. We've had our Planning Initiatives webinar, and we're going to keep on having those. So if you have questions about what we're working on, you can tune in live or you can watch them recorded. So you always know what we're working on. And we've funded over 20 million in projects with impact fees. Been pretty busy. So I know you're thinking, Janae, you surely can't top that next year. What are you going to do? Well, let me tell you, we're going to keep on coordinating with other departments. Let me tell you what we're doing. We're going to be working together on a new technology platform that we'll all be using. It's called Opal, Oracle for Permitting and Licensing. We're going to be working with ATL DOT on their comprehensive transportation plan. You know, they came and helped us with our CDP. All that community outreach required a lot of staffing, and a lot of their staff volunteered to work with us at those meetings. We're also working with the Parks Department on the Urban Forest Master Plan. We got a great big $5 million grant for that. And we're leading coordination on the public realm improvements for the World Cup. As we wrap up the CDP, as you know, we're doing this comprehensive development plan is for a very large area. The city is 136 square miles. And because it's for such a large area, it's a very high level plan. So this coming year, we're going to start taking a deep dive into each neighborhood. We received an LCI grant from the Atlanta Regional Commission to do a plan for the neighborhood around the Ashby MARTA station. We have some other small area plans coming your way soon too. This summer, we will be testing the zoning ordinance. As you know, we have to make sure it works with our other codes, and we have to make sure that it yields the type of development that we want. So if you want to see what that entails, we'll be in the Arborist conference room starting next month through the end of the year. And we'll bring the zoning ordinance to you early next year for adoption. So mark your calendar, June 21st at the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library. It's a program about the Chattahoochee Brick Memorialization. And then mark your calendar for June 23rd through 25th. That's Affordable Housing Week. We've got a lot coming up. We hope you'll join us. So here's the one that gets us the questions, at least that's what I've noticed the past 2 times we've done this. The numbers here aren't round numbers, and that's because some of our positions are split funded. We have, well, as of February 6th, I think we have more up-to-date numbers for you. We had 95 vacant positions. That's mostly in the Office of Buildings. Those are the inspector positions that have always been very hard for us to fill. But now, since we've had the comp and class study, we think it will be easier to fill them. And we plan to have more staff, more inspectors on staff in the coming fiscal year rather than using our Nova Engineering supplemental staffing contract. It is cheaper for us to have people on staff. And our vacancy rate has gone down. The first time I sat in front of y'all doing this, our vacancy rate was over 30%. It was 35%. And now it's down to 27%. And I anticipate it will get lower as we bring more functions in-house. We've been keeping the positions because we want to do this. We want to bring it in-house. And then here's the last slide, the big numbers slide. So if I could just quickly walk you through this. If you look at fiscal year 25, the projections here, where we're projected to be at the end of the year, you can see that that's about $5 million more than what is in the adopted budget. And you're probably wondering why. That's because every year since I've been here, we've been transferring money into our budget to cover the costs of running our department. When you look at these budget totals here, they don't tell the whole story. For many years, we had a enterprise fund for the Department of City Planning, a separate bank account where we put all of our permitting revenues. And then when the enterprise fund was dissolved, we still had those permitting revenues in the bank. And each year we've been drawing upon those to supplement our budget to run our department. This year, there's $1.2 million left in that account that will go towards Opal, our new enterprise platform that all the departments will use. We'll use it for permitting. And then we won't have the reserves to draw upon. And we will be rethinking our permitting function and refocusing and strategizing around our core functions to get to this number, the fiscal year 2026 number, the 26.9. So it shows a little bit less, but we're going to be rethinking how we provide services in the Department of City Planning related to our core functions. And if you have questions around that, I'm happy to answer those because there's a lot of info that goes with that. That's the gist of it, and we're here for you for all the questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for the presentation. Let me first say thank you to you and your team. I think we need to remind everybody just how much extra stuff y'all have taken on this year between tree protection, short-term rental, Plan A, zoning 2.0. I mean, everything on top of the level of activity that continues to increase as well. So with that backdrop, I'll be honest with you, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and I'm sure that Madam COO is going to fall out of her chair, but I question whether your budget request is woefully under-resourcing you for the next year. And I'll tell you why. I mean, number one, when I look at your salary increase, it really isn't an increase because it's essentially, it's a $1.2 million jump, but 1.5 of that is simply medical benefits. So your salary lines are actually going down. And yet it's not that we're expecting any sort of drop in activity. I mean, you talked about, I think STR could potentially, we'll see what happens in the latter part of the year with some of these initiatives, but I think some of it's going to spill over into the next fiscal year. You still have zoning 2.0. You're not increasing your overtime or anything, and your contracted services is going down too. I just am worried. I mean, I have to, and I'm a little surprised that I'm saying this, but I do think this doesn't match what I am thinking your level of activity needs to be. You talked about Opal, and I don't know that I see the costs or the investment in that unless you're just absorbing it into what y'all are doing, which I'm not sure that's advisable. And then I'm also reminded by a meeting I recently had in my district where both the NPUE and F chair were commenting about how there have been some complex transactions and applications coming through that they've caught some things that may have, in partnership with the planning staff, that I wonder if the shortening of the time to process these have made us faster, but maybe not as thorough and accurate. And I'd rather us invest in making sure as the transactions get more and more complex, that we are resourcing appropriately. And the last thing I'll say before I just kind of want to get your feedback on it, you made a comment that, where did I write that down? You said something to the effect of you've had influxes of funding that so that the budget numbers we see for the past fiscal years aren't really necessarily showing a correct, aren't reflecting the actual spend or activity level. Yet we're going back down to FY25 numbers, a reduction from the FY2025 projections. So help me reconcile that, because I think you're the first department that's come up where I'm like, I don't know that you have what you need to meet all the things that we are asking y'all to do. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
So in each of the past fiscal years, we have transferred money into our budget, and I have a list here going back to fiscal year 2022. Just wanted to see what those all were. And a bunch of them come from the committed fund balance, which is where we had all the old permitting fees in reserve. And different amounts in different years, some more than others. It depends. One of the things that we were talking about before we came in here is how in the Department of City Planning, our needs change from year to year depending upon which projects we're doing. If you think about it this way, when you're doing a CDP, that's every 5 years, you have a big push, a lot of community engagement. And rewriting a zoning ordinance, big push, a lot of work. And then other years, it's less. And it just depends from year to year. And that's why we have so many positions vacant, because in some cases we're reluctant to abolish them because we're like, oh, we're probably gonna need this next year. And it's hard to create new positions. Right. It's hard to be nimble with staffing. But being able to pull money from the committed fund balance has helped us to adjust each year. It has been helpful.
So I understand that. I guess if we are, again, I mean, the fact that we've been pulling money in to help meet the needs on kind of an ad hoc basis, that to me doesn't feel like a proper budgeting process. Like, I'd rather fund you at the level that you need to and not have to necessarily rely on us going to the piggy bank. It's not really a piggy bank, it's y'all's money, but going there to supplement. So Yeah, I just am concerned. I mean, you talked about rethinking. I think that was the word you used of how y'all do things going into next year. You know, in this capital market environment, in this level of instability, I think the transactions are going to continue to become even more complex as builders, developers, homeowners figure out creative ways to do things, and we need to be ready as a city to meet them and partner with them and be appropriately resourced. So to do that, things aren't going to get easier and they're not going to get simpler. And I just don't feel like your budget and it rises to that opportunity. And I understand y'all were tasked with being restrained, but this department and transportation were the two that I might know of all the, no, great, the other departments are going to get mad at me, but of all the things we really need to be stepping on the gas on, I believe you're one of them. So I'm going to leave that there. I know my colleagues have other questions, but I want to just at least send that signal out in terms of, I mean, if we can find a way to get y'all more, I'm open to it because of all the reasons I said. So I'll leave that unless you have any of your team have any thoughts in response to that.
Well, Councilmember Juan, one of the things that we're doing is we want to bring some of the functions that we have back in-house. We have a supplemental staffing contract with Nova Engineering, and they provide all of our residential combination inspectors. And the contract with Nova is $4.5 million. And they were great and super helpful through COVID, but now it's time to bring some of that function back in. So you'll see that there's less need to spend so much now, and it would be easier to sort of scale back by bringing that function more in-house, hiring more inspectors to our staff as opposed to contracting it out. It was great for COVID.
I agree with that strategy 100%. Your budget doesn't reflect that. It reflects the decrease in purchase services, but it does not reflect an increase in bringing those people in staff. And maybe those are funded vacant positions right now.
They are.
And I hope that they've been adjusted for the class and comp, but it's not a commensurate shift. So it's the right strategy. I agree with you. I just don't feel like your budget reflects what we should be investing in order to make that sing the way we philosophically think it should. So I know you're probably, you should take that and run with it, because I typically with the other departments I've been like, I think you've got too much in overtime and things like that. You're the one where I'm like, if we could find a way to more adequately resource you, I would be open to it. So thank you.
The only other thing I would add, Councilmember Juan, is that, we've spent the last, almost 3-4 years now, looking at our permitting process and trying to make it much more efficient, leaner, meaner, much more effective. And so some of that is also reflected there. So we've consolidated a lot of areas. We have become much more cross-functional. And so there are some savings there that we have on the building side that we can try to transfer over to. And that's what we mean by rethinking and refocusing. Okay. So that's just one example.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for the presentation. Looking at the current fiscal year, and it can be an estimate, I don't know, we're obviously not going to have an exact number yet, but what is your anticipated revenue from permitting fees at the end of FY25?
Good afternoon, council members. It's FY24 was about 38 million, so roughly right around about somewhere between 35 and 38 million.
And what do you anticipate that going to in fiscal year 26?
Council, I might be able to answer that. So we've seen a slight reduction in those fees as the activity has waned this year and next year. We're roughly expecting about that 33 or so million, 35 million.
Understood. So taking that number and it not even adding up to your current FY26 proposed budget, how are you, Commissioner, and your team going to ensure that the city adheres by House Bill 461, which restricts the use of permitting fees like the city used to do before 2 administrations ago eliminated that account, and now all those fees go into the general fund, which House Bill 461 says they cannot do, or at least they can't go to other general fund expenses. They have to be spent within the Department of Planning, who administers and collects those fees. So are you looking to reestablish that account? And then even if you are, if we're expecting $33 to $35 million in permitting fees, but only budgeting your department for a little under $27 million, how does that stack up?
So there's a couple things here. If I remember correctly, House Bill 461 does not require us to have a separate account for permitting fees. It specifically calls out regulatory activities. And those things happen in DCP, but also outside of DCP. For example, site development is in watershed, and they are part of the permitting process. And I'm not sure what the budget is for site development, but I suppose if you added it together with what DCP spends, you'd be getting close to the amount we bring in permitting revenues, and their site is part of that. Also, our permit applications are reviewed by ATL DOT, by Public Works, sometimes by Parks. You never know. Different departments are involved at different costs, and I don't think we have figured out exactly what the cost is of all of the different departments that are contributing to this process.
That is correct. I'd like to add too, in addition to that, there's also the cost associated that's carried by the Atlanta Information Management for all the licensing that is paid to Microsoft for every employee, Oracle costs, technology costs. So if you add all of those costs that are spread out through different departments, part of the direct and indirect cost of performing these services, it's well over the amount that's collected now.
There is also a piece about the structure for the fees for projects of $75,000 or less in value. And we will be bringing something to City Council to restructure our fees to be in compliance with House Bill 461. We'll be bringing that very soon. We just had to get our fee study completed first, and we just got the draft of that back. So we'll be able to bring forth that ordinance soon.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for that. So hopefully your understanding will be in full compliance with the requirements of that bill that passed, not this year's legislative session, but the prior years.
With the information that I have right now, it seems that we are, but I think we need to look at that more deeply. And I can see CFO Bala nodding, yes, we do. We were working on that for quite some time. And then when we found out we had to restructure the fees for the projects under $75,000 in value, so we had to stop and do a fee study. So
We had actually started the fee study as part of your request, Councilmember Hillis, and we just folded that work into the ongoing work on updating fees.
And remember the difficulties we had with the fee study, with some of the information that went in made the results come out all wonky, and we had to go back and start over on certain pieces.
Understood. And lastly, I usually don't drill down on district-specific issues in budget hearings, but your department has been tasked over the past few years with leading a number of the mayor's priorities and also my priorities when it comes to planning around the Silver Comet Connector, the Chattahoochee Riverlands Trail, and also the cleanup and future development, parks development, memorial development of the Chattahoochee Brick site. So could you just update me on where that is and how that rolls into this fiscal year 26 budget?
Doug, you want to handle that one?
Certainly. Good afternoon, Councilmember Hillis. Doug Young, Director of the Office of Design. Speaking about Chattahoochee Brick and Riverlands, you might be aware that we are very imminently signing the contract for design and planning for Chattahoochee Brick memorialization work and partially the trails concept development for Riverlands. So we anticipate rolling out the Riverlands planning and community engagement this summer or early fall. We've also, of course, already started on Chattahoochee Brick on some of the logistical and brownfield cleanup work. We anticipate that's part of the design and consulting contract for Riverlands that includes a targeted approach to the property itself, working with our partners, both community and institutional partners, to move that forward. So you will see more about that certainly in this upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you. That's all I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Oh, let me put this down so I can actually see Kieta's smiling face. So first of all, thank y'all so much for being here. Next time we should really have this presentation before lunch because there's not enough coffee in the world. So I appreciate your presentation and I understand what you are giving us and I have respect for what you are stating. I am just seeing what you are saying and what I am seeing feel like two different realities. So I just kind of want to dive in. Your department has been given massive tasks. I mean, guiding us through the TPO, which I will not say 3 times because this room will become filled, to make sure, I mean, walking us through zoning 2.0, trying to lead us to the update around short-term rentals. You have the CDP, which you did, I mean, how many community engagement sessions?
We had 38 public and a whole lot of ones where people invited us.
Well, bless you for taking that second one on. And so that knowing that piece, I can't even imagine how many meetings you took. And it's continuing next year with the implementation of all of these things to make sure everything's moving forward. And I mean, that's a big ask, and Councilmember Wan's already asked it, but I mean, you really feel that this budget reflects the increased staffing you would need to be able to do this work without becoming completely burnt out and making, I mean, like these are big things and you're moving through them very well. But we know what it is to have a statement and a headline and to carry it out are two very different things. And so I'm asking if this reflects the infrastructure and staffing that you need to make sure that these projects get across the finish line, preferably in a way that does not kill you all.
Well, thank you so much. That's very nice. And
yes, I'd prefer for our staff to not be. So, go ahead.
We're doing a couple of different things, but we talked about with staffing up and the permitting function. Really, it's going to cost us, once we finally get all of the inspectors and plan reviewers on staff as opposed to contracted out, it's going to save us a lot of money. And it's going to take a while. And we'll be doing it this fiscal year. But I'm confident that the mayor's office will give us all of the resources that we need to do everything that we have on our to-do list for the upcoming year.
Yes, because I know affordable housing is a huge focus of this administration, and I've said it a million times. This administration has done more around affordable housing than in homelessness around all of our administrations combined. And just given the federal climate, given FIFA next year, given the very difficult, complex pieces that I read that y'all are doing, I will keep diving into this because this is not me blaming you. Our job is also to represent you all. And so I'll just continue to dive into these numbers because I don't feel that they are reflective of what you need. And I have complete faith in this team. I want to better understand the staffing and the infrastructure needed to make sure you get that across the finish line, and we'll continue to dive into that offline. And I also have additional questions. How much overlap is there between your team and the housing team in the mayor's office, the Office of Policy?
Well, we have 3 people in the Office of Housing and Community Development who specifically work on the neighborhood revitalization initiatives. That's their jobs. They have on the map that showed the neighborhoods, they're all assigned various neighborhoods to work on this, and we work together with them very closely.
Okay.
You know, when some of the a couple years ago, when some of the staff from OHCD moved up to the mayor's office of policy, we had those positions open, and we decided that those positions would be plan implementation positions because we make a lot of plans, and we also have to bring those plans to life. So that was the idea for these 3 positions. And it was so great to start working with the mayor's office of policy on the neighborhood revitalization initiatives, because that's exactly what these positions were visualized and we envisioned them doing.
Understood. Thank you. And this is a bit of a niche question. You all are already, as I said, strained enough. Why is DCP split between here and 2 Peachtree?
Well, we're split between more than just here and 2 Peachtree.
How many locations are you split into?
Okay, I'll tell you where we are. Okay, you know where the commissioner's office is. I know
Correct.
because you've come to my office before.
For questions, y'all, just for questions. Please continue. And meetings.
And meetings. And you know that the Office of Buildings and the Office of Zoning and Development are on the 3rd floor. We have the Inspector Suite at 96 Mitchell, and we have the Office of Design Studio at 235 Mitchell. And we have our OHCD is in the process of moving to 2 Peachtree, and our plan reviewers are in the process. Well, actually, they're already there at 2 Peachtree, but they're still kind of tinkering with the air conditioning a little bit. So we've said to the staff over there, if it gets too hot.
Well, I believe that we're still waiting on, I know that this was mentioned with the housing team prior, that I heard a rumor they all are still waiting on air quality.
Oh, no,
Tests.
the air quality tests are good.
Okay.
It's the air conditioning that we're still working on. And if it gets too hot over there, they can come to City Hall or to the studio to work.
Thank you. It just feels that, given everything that's put on y'all already, that having you broken up between so many locations would actually reduce efficiencies and make your life a lot harder. And so just curious, and maybe this is a finance question or administrative question, what we need to do, or, I mean, it feels to me that the logical piece would be to have you all in the same location so that you could communicate with each other and improve efficiencies and improve systems.
That would be nice. Ideally, I would like it if we were all in one place, and I would like it if we were all at City Hall, because just selfishly, that makes my life easier if we're at City Hall. But you know what? We interact so much, and everybody is always coming and going out of the commissioner's suite. We're like a family, an extended family. We all come
I'm sure
together.
you're a wonderfully dysfunctional family just like us.
That's right.
Yeah. I understand, and I have I have complete ability to your ability to adapt. I'm going to tell you that this is going to be a big focus of mine, because I do not understand why y'all are so separated and why you are a wonderful family. I'm going to continue to ask questions about this, because I feel in my mind that y'all would have an easier job if you were at the same location. So I want to better understand that. And then another niche question is I know that y'all have to pay for parking here. You have to pay parking additionally in all those different locations, because given that you are, I think, dollars in any way that we can help alleviate cost of living on you all. I know that's a small question, but it just feels that I'm hearing that we're putting on our employees additional payment for parking in different locations. So I'd like to look into that. My next question, I actually want to piggyback on what Councilmember Hillis said. I don't know if this is for you all or law. I'm hoping to get a better an understanding on the HB 461. I believe the state passed, I want to say HB 461 about revenue, department revenue in '24. And from what my interpretation, and, keep in mind that I am not a lawyer. It seems like the paper is saying that revenue raised by permitting activity has to be used for regulatory activity and not general operations of local government. I'm not really clear if that means money raised by permits has to be used only for things relating to those permits. Can law or someone speak to that?
You want to hear from law or?
Yeah, go. If we can hear from law, and then I'll.
Charlie Hewlett, City of Atlanta Department of Law. The internet's not working, so I can't look up HB 461 off the cuff. But what I do know about how fees work when it comes to permitting is that fees can only be utilized for the actual activities that they're being collected for. So things like the staff member who takes the application, the staff member who reviews the application, the software that's utilized to accept those applications, and anything where permits are being touched by city staff. From what my general understanding of the difference is, so there's a gray area between where the regulatory activities are and where the general activities land. However, the Department of City Planning can't fund initiatives outside of the realm of permitting by using permitting funds. But I would have to have the the bill in front of me to give you a better understanding. Does that help at all, council member?
I think this is a little bit. Thank you. I was hoping if law can send me their opinion on if we're compliant with 461, that would be very helpful, because based on I understand the answer that was given to Councilmember Hillis, and I know this is complex, but from my understanding, I don't know if we are. And so if we can just get details on that, because I think that would also help with some of the staffing, and keeping things around permits would still help with those efficiencies. And given that according to your presentation, that a majority of our 95 vacant positions are mostly in OOB, it seems to me that this would be extraordinarily helpful. And I don't mean being able to allocate this funds to y'all and then taking it away from your budget in a different way. I mean all of this staying. And so having an understanding of that, I think, would be greatly helpful to us to find out how we better supplement funds for so many vacant positions, especially in office buildings, given how highly utilized they are. So I think I've made my point on that. The other question that I have is, your department is one of the few that generates revenue. How much did your department raise last year?
38.
That number. Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping you could say. I missed it. I'm sorry.
Sure, I can answer that question.
Sure.
It was roughly 35 million generated last year's 38 million. This year we're projecting close to 35 million.
Okay.
And just to answer your question, Councilmember Bakhtiari, I'm fully confident that those funds that are collected are probably a little less than all of the permitting activity that's handled in the city of Atlanta within and outside of the Department of City Planning.
Okay.
Including the lawyer's time you just utilized to answer questions, and staff from other departments that have to coordinate with the department on a day-to-day basis. And you mentioned, Commissioner Prince mentioned other parts of the government that utilize and are impacted by this process.
Okay, and thank you for that, CFO. Where does that revenue come from? The source of that revenue that you have generated, what is the main source of that revenue within your department?
It's building permitting fees mostly. I mean, we have application fees for zoning as well, but mostly building permitting fees.
Okay, it kind of rolls into the question I asked prior, so thank you for that. And just general questions about TPO and STRs. Those are both, I mean, we're talking about you all also reviewing all the permits for STR and finding if they're compliant. I know we're hiring a third party to comb all of the websites to allow us to know who's out of compliance. However, I'm noticing, based on the level of what is needed for both the enforcement of the TPO, if we do adopt it in the near future, and for STRs. Does this do you all have do you all have what is needed to actually uphold those systems?
Greg, can you speak to STR?
And for the good afternoon, Councilman Bakhtiari and everyone. For the STR, yes, we projected the number of staffing we would need in order to be able to actively enforce, process all STR applications based on the ordinance itself. There's a two-part to it where those without a license, of course, would be enforced by Office of Zoning, Office of Building, whereas those that do have a license would be APD.
Thank
So
you.
yes, ma'am.
Because I think we have over 11,000 in the city, so I know that's going to be a lot. So I'll continue checking up on that because I know that you love our time together, DC. So thank you. That concludes my questions.
Okay. Ms. Robinson is here, I think, and she can provide more
Great.
information
Thank you.
to you.
Good afternoon, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta Department of Law. So the HB 461, as it passed last year, essentially codifies case law surrounding what you can use regulatory fees to fund. That case law states that can only be used to fund the regulations that the fees support. That includes enforcement, it includes administering the regulations, it includes the staff time to review permits, enforcement of permits, and other administrative costs related there too, as long as it's all related to the subject matter of the regulatory activity. The good news for us is we are in compliance in that we have been doing this for many decades in accordance with current case law. This bill simply codified those requirements.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
President Shipman.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Prince and team. A couple of specific questions. If I look at your page 7, the proposed budget, the 25 projection, and this may be for finance, had a $4.6 million other financing uses line. What is that exactly?
Sure. That was a mid-year budget amendment where the Department of Community Planning appropriated from the committed fund balance in anticipation. So that wasn't budgeted. It was transferred halfway through the year from the committed fund balance to the Department of City Planning's budget.
But that's a revenue line. What's the cost use of that 4.6 then? Was it used for financing or was it used
No,
for?
I believe they used it, I think they moved it in and moved it back out to fund the Nova contract.
Okay, so that's the Nova contract piece. Thank you. So if I look at that top line, Commissioner, you've got a mid-year projection, 24.1 million on the personnel services line. You've got a proposed budget of 23 million on the same line. That's about a 5% reduction. My question is, do you think that you're going to start the year at that $23 million run rate? Are you eliminating people? Are you not hiring back funded positions? I mean, that's a real world decrease.
That's
You're going to
true.
get there, and how are you going to get there?
So at the end of FY25, we were asked to cut 5% from our projected year-end spend, and part of that was looking at positions. There was a little bit of restructuring that we considered, and I guess fortunately or unfortunately, we had quite a bit of attrition right there. About 10, 12 people seemed pretty quick. And so in our restructuring, we only lost 2 positions that weren't attrition. So that was like 10 or 12 people, so that was a drop there. And for those, I think that we only intend to backfill 2 of them. I'd have to go back and look for sure, but it's not very many. However, we are looking to hire building inspectors, but then we would have less on the contracted services. So this may, we may switch this around a little bit as time goes forward. We don't completely have our spread 100% nailed down yet.
Okay. So you're still working on that. So I guess just to follow up with Councilmember Wan's perspective, and I've asked this of some of the other departments where I've made the note. If I go back to the 22 actuals, which is basically the budget that this council inherited, the actuals for 22 for planning were 29.5 million. Your 26 budget is 26.9 million. That means that from FY22 to now, that would be an almost 9% decrease. There are only 2 departments actually that have a decrease of any kind from FY22. The whole budget, the whole city budget overall has grown 33% in that time. There are only 2 departments, ATL DOT and planning. Let me say that again. There are 2 departments that are down in their budget when the city budget is up by 1/3. ATL DOT and planning. We have talked about that ATL DOT has capital influxes and that there's some. But my question is, why is planning's budget down in real numbers almost 9% in 4 fiscal years? Is it all technology upgrades, or are we actually doing more with less money?
Well, gosh, I'd say both. We really have improved our efficiency so much. The permitting process improvements, we've really accomplished quite a bit. We have had, there was a certain point right when I first came on board that we had quite a bit of attrition right when I very first got here almost 3 years ago. And we have been staffing back and staffing differently, looking for different skill sets. If you think about how we have focused on affordable housing here just recently, there's 23 affordable housing positions, and 8 of them were repurposed from existing positions, 15 were new. We've changing every year. What do we need this year? What do we need next year? It's different from year to year depending upon what we were working on. If you're going back to FY22, I might have to refer to Janity because I wasn't here then.
I will say this, as I mentioned previously, I think it's absolutely amazing that with the decrease that you've just demonstrated in our budget, that we've actually been able to reduce the timelines and made our permitting improvements, make our process so much more efficient. And a lot of that has been, as I said, looking at what people are actually doing. 2 years ago, we had a 3,000 application backlog in permitting. We restructured a team, we dedicated staff to take care of that backlog, and we have been streamlining ever since. So when I talk about cross-functionality, Greg and his team can talk to you about that a lot more, because we developed a core team called the Development Services Team, which has really, I hate to use a word like transformed, but definitely changed how we function within the Department of City Planning to get the work done. So a lot of that is really attributable to that. And so there are situations where we have had, attrition, and we have not had to backfill certain positions.
And if I may add, council member, so the adopted budget for 22, I think it was around 20 million, up now to 27 million. The adopted personnel budget in 2022 was about 12 million, and the personnel budget now is about 23 million. So there's a lot of shifts that have happened between the adopted budget and this budget that's proposed. You might be looking at a funded budget that might include some inflows and outflows of capital finance fund activity during that time. So have to dig a little bit deeper into the comparison between the 22 budget and the 26 budget.
Well, the number I'm using is 26 actual that was reported in the 24 budget packages, so we can.
Correct, which that actual number probably includes inflows from the capital finance fund.
It
So
does.
some capital funding probably was associated with that as well, too.
Well,
I think-
I would simply say that anecdotally, I agree. I think that there has been tremendous progress made in the functionality of planning over the few years. It was a real pain point when I got here, a lot of constituent complaints. Those are way down, at least to my office. I simply wanted to underline Councilmember Wan's concern that sometimes we can go too far. Sometimes we can see progress and you can have success, and then we can actually get to a point where we underfund. We just got a report that Atlanta City population is up 4% to almost 525. I think that, we need to just keep our eye on this particular budget and make sure that we're not asking you to make bricks without straw. You've made a lot of progress, but we have to make sure that you continue to have the resources you need. I yield.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got just a few high-level philosophical observations and a couple questions. Let's talk about impact fees. I'm hoping to leave here with an understanding of how they're managed. I'm 0 for 23 at this point. Are y'all the deciders for impact fees? Is it finance? Who is it? Because every time I try to get somewhere, I get this. Everyone not named you swears it's y'all.
Councilmember Shook, are you asking who decides how the impact fees are used?
Yeah, who do we need to go supplicate to on a one-on-one level, like to have a real conversation?
Rasheen Hunter is our impact fee coordinator, but I would like it if you would just come talk to me.
Be careful what you wish for.
Rasheen is the guy back there with the foam finger.
But Councilmember Shook, the Department of Law really helps to guide the
here we
types
go.
of projects that impact fees are eligible for. So once we receive, for example, every year, we go through a process where we solicit projects. And once we receive those projects, it is the Department of Law that gives us the guidelines as to what is eligible and what is ineligible. And so those are the guidelines that are applied, and we come out of each year with a selected program of projects that gets added to the impact fee program, to our CIE. One of the things that has dramatically changed this year with the CIE is that if you will remember, many, many years ago, we had like 500 projects on the CIE, and not a lot of them were being funded. Not a lot of them were even moving. And so we've gone through a huge process with our partner departments to clean up the capital improvement element so that now those projects that are there are actually eligible, will be receiving impact fees that are collected, and will begin to move forward. As you know, impact fees are not, they're usually a supplemental type of funding for projects. So we kind of piecemeal impact fees with other funding sources in order to keep the projects moving. Yeah. And so now we're coming closer to what I would call a constrained capital improvement element with projects that can actually be funded and with apportionments and allocations that are realistic, that abide by the guidelines, and can move forward.
Okay, and realistic is probably the closer word than constrained, so I appreciate that. So looking through your planning glasses, you're seeing the results of COVID, you're seeing plummeted office vacancy rates with all of the ripple effects that ensue from that. Is that going to come back? Are those uses going to have to shift elsewhere? What does your crystal ball foresee?
My crystal ball says it depends on the particular business and whether or not they want to have their employees on site.
My impression is from Buckhead and downtown, if you own a Class A building, you're in good shape. Class B and Class C are taking a ferocious beating and may not survive. And those are the buildings that really can't be converted into residential. And a huge ripple effect, because that's thousands of people that aren't going out on their lunch break. They're not picking up dry cleaning. They're not going to the drugstore. They're not running those kinds of errands. And so I guess that's where the CDP comes in. It's often said that CDP is a living document. It's been my observation that that's one way. Classifications can only get more, they can change and they can become more intense, but you cannot claw back a square inch of any of it in terms of density, which makes it really hard for me to look at as a valid planning document. I mean, if something was written 40 years ago and can't be redrawn, is it a plan? Just what's your take on, it's all state law. We've got very little to do with it.
Well, you're right in that we can't claw back the density. When you do something that reduces the value of a piece of land, you have to compensate the property owner for the loss in value. I think the land uses will have to change and will have to become more flexible. Downtown is one of the places that we're looking at for small area planning. We're going to take a deep dive in a bunch of different neighborhoods on our small area plans, and downtown is one of the neighborhoods we're looking at. Because not only is it the center of the city and a place where we have a lot of events, it's a neighborhood.
So planners seem to have kind of a shared appetite to want to introduce greater density into single-family neighborhoods. But I would just ask you to remember that in Buckhead's case, there's 40 million square feet of latent by right development. There's plenty of density increasing opportunities without going into the crown jewels, which are our single-family neighborhoods. And I know people look at them as out of style, out of date. And we're extremely sensitive about that. We love our neighborhoods. We love them. By the way, next time you're down my way, I'll show you my 1930 CDP map of the city, which has classifications that will blow you away. Well, just kind of a last thing. I always remind people that your staff is in front of the public an awful lot, whether it's zoning committee, BZA, ZRB, comp hearings, all of it. And so, the NPUs, so y'all get high marks for that. And I just never forget how forward-facing, your group is. You're not like a lot of other departments. So it's kind of a big responsibility. Y'all do it well. And I've enjoyed working with some of you for a very long time. But final, just philosophical question. For people who say it's time for the big vacation, and then they go to Rome, they go to London, they go to, Italy, Athens, whatever. And the places they're going to see, the destination places, are places we'll never have. We'll never have sidewalks that are like this, that you share with motor scooters. We'll never have twisting cobblestone roads that are this wide. We'll never have the restaurant seating on those crammed sidewalks. because the CDP doesn't allow it, NPUX says no, whatever. I think it's kind of a shame we're not allowed to build more places that people in Germany would want to come to see. The closest we have is the Beltline, I would say. But I mean, that's not close to the other places we traveled to see. How long have you been here now?
It'll be 3 years in September. Excuse me, in September.
It's nice to have a fellow Daytonian in the building. What's been your biggest surprise here?
I'm sorry?
What's been your biggest surprise here?
How great the staff is.
Very good answer. Ms. Bakhtiari, bring it home, and then we're already running into our next presenter.
It's funny because what people ask me, what I find so much so shocking coming here, is how often my constituents advocate for fascism. So when people don't get what they want, suddenly other people's land belongs to them, as I'm sure y'all come across very often. One real quick thing, if also I hear that one of our new lawyers, you're doing a great job, so thank you. Real quick, if you could still send me the opinion on the HB, if law could still send that to me, that would be awesome.
Of course.
Thank you.
We'll get that started.
Thank you so much. And tell me your name again for the record, since we're not just meeting you for the first time.
Charlie Hewlett.
Nice to meet you, Charlie. The other thing I wanted to ask is Urban Ag still under your department?
Yes.
Okay. Would you mind just giving me a breakdown of what they get? Not, we can talk about it afterwards, but if you could get me the numbers back on what Urban Ag is currently getting, because I know they're under you all with some of the stuff they're doing around food apartheid and everything else. It's something I want to have a better understanding of. And then once again, this is my thing in terms of, this is not really budget related, it's personal budget. If you all are paying for multiple locations on top of paying for parking here, that's $12 to $15 a day. That's $60 to $75 a week. That's $240 to $300 a month that you all are paying for parking. So if we could, finance, admin, can we please look into that to help in this environment? I think that cost of living, those things hit hard. And so if we could just understand how to better rectify that to support our employees, I would greatly appreciate it. And my last two questions, I'll keep them short. Impact, my understanding is that with your question, Councilmember Shook, about impact fees, the way I understand it is that they are accepted in planning but designated by finance. So is it finance that we need to talk to you about impact fees?
Yes, Councilmember, you wanted to ask about impact fee balances?
Well, no, Councilmember Shook was asking who to go to, and Commissioner was saying that he could come to her, and it was saying about who oversees them, and I was saying my impression is that impact fees are accepted by DCP, but they are designated by finance.
Correct.
Okay.
We have the balances and allocations, but of course, city through administration and council
Great.
puts forth the necessary legislation to obligate the funds.
Okay. And then the last question was, I'm understanding that fees for impact should only go like to the receiver as charged, so fire to fire, police to police, et cetera.
Correct. They are designated by certain categories, transportation north, transportation south, transportation west, parks north, parks south, parks
Okay.
west, as well as fire and police.
Yep.
And then there is an allocation for transportation citywide, which is the legacy allocation to the transportation impact fees before the designations were split into the different geographical allocations.
Thank you, CFO. I appreciate that. That concludes my questions.
Ms. Boone.
Yes, I will be brief, but I wanted to particularly thank the two individuals to my right, Ms. Holmes and Mr. Pace. You all interact with citizens one-on-one on a regular basis. They are treated kind, with respect. You take the time to explain the issues to them, and for that, we are really, really grateful. To the wonderful staff in the audience, Ms. Leah LaRue, who spends hours in the community with our MPUs. Thank you all so much. I do have a couple of other questions, but I will call you all individually, and I hope we got the Ratcliffe Presbyterian Church issue settled. Please look into the Ratcliffe Presbyterian issue. Mr. Pace, thank you for your support with that issue as well. Again, you all have done a wonderful job taking the time to explain zoning and permitting matters, meeting with people all day. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing nothing else, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Shook, can I at least say thank you for your service all the time that you've been here. I understand that you're not seeking re-election.
Greg, we've
Appreciate
we've worked a long time with each other, and
Yeah.
I don't know what my staff and I would do without you, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We're going to resume our review of the mayor's proposed FY2026 spending plan. Up with us now is the Office of the Solicitor. Their budget detail can be found on page 377. And thank you for sending us in advance the copies of your presentation. And if you are ready, Mr. Solicitor, introduce us to your team and take it away.
Thank you, Chairman Shook, and thank you to all members of City Council. I am Raines Carter, City Solicitor, and we are honored to be able to present our FY26 proposed budget for your review and consideration. The first slide, of course, is our organization chart. And it's very basic. It's just a layout with myself, my operations manager, and I'd like to do some introductions. I'm joined here at the table. To my far right is Deputy Solicitor Erica Smith. To my immediate right is Deputy Solicitor Rhonda Graham. Okay, and to my far left is our city's Director of the Safe and Secure Housing Initiative and our Special Properties team, Mr. Jordan Williams, who works with our office and the city administration. And to my immediate left is Milan Henderson, my operations manager. We have a few other people, of course, that supervised in our office. We have a chief investigator. We have our chief person for our diversion program, Ms. Nana Burdette, who is here with us in the audience today. We have other legal support, and of course, many of you are familiar with our community prosecution and outreach efforts that are coordinated by Holly Carey. We're here to serve the citizens of Atlanta, and in order to do so, we have to be in specific alignment with our administration's priorities. One safe city, a city of opportunity, a city built for the future, and of course, effective and ethical government. Just to give you a year in review with regard to One Safe City, the Safe and Secure Housing Initiative team has now been expanded to include all special properties. As you know, in the past, we have dealt with many types of situations involving nuisance, injunctive relief in our superior courts. Well, all of that is now evolving into the special properties team. We are here to ensure and promote a safe environment for all of our residents. This past fiscal year, we've brought in over $300,000 in civil penalties that were related specifically to the multifamily properties that we have been tackling. I want to explain that although this does not seem like to be an overwhelmingly large pot of money, it's significant because you have to balance it against the fact that in the past years, we were not getting sufficient penalties at all. With some of these multifamily dwellings and property owners, we're now getting penalties up to $30,000, $35,000 for violations. And remember, we always have to balance that against making sure that people put money back into these properties. So there's always a delicate balance of finding people, but also making sure that resources are directed to upgrading the living conditions for our citizens. We have been successful with dealing with some of the, what our mayor likes to call bad actors. And I really enjoy the way that Mayor Dickens puts it. There are two buckets. They're the good actors and they're the bad actors. The good actors are people that you can approach and they will talk and they will seek to come into compliance. The bad actors are the ones that have no gumption whatsoever about coming into compliance. What they want to do is continue to violate the law. They want to continue to play games. They reach out and they actually come against the city. They come against certain council members. There are a couple of examples that I can give where council members have actually been threatened by these people. And I just want to let you all know that we are here to enforce the law on your behalf. And we want to thank APD for providing the protection. You all have had to have people stationed at your homes for this kind of nonsense. So we're here to deal with the bad actors, but we certainly will not close our doors to people who want to comply. We had an awful situation last year, actually took place on Mother's Day, where one of our nightclubs in the Buckhead area, where people lost their lives to a senseless shooting. That place has since been shut down. And that property, I understand, is now part of some development projects with the Beltline. We can't thank you enough for the support that you all gave us in that. It is not easy to shut down a business, and it shouldn't be easy. Businesses are part of the lifeblood of our society. I'm not here gunning for businesses, but I will tell you this, we are gunning for those bad actors that don't want to comply with law. We have been successful in enjoining property owners from illegal activities. We've discussed individually at times the things that we have taking place at these party houses. Now, you may notice that you see the word temporarily enjoining. Well, that's there for a reason. These bad actors, they're like playing the game whack-a-mole. You knock them down in one place, what do? They pop up somewhere else. And so that's why it's very important for our efforts to remain strong and for our efforts to continue to be ongoing. We had an opportunity for this cycle to actually have quite a bit of success with our business and alcohol license cases. And I just want to take a moment and personally thank Councilmember Alex Wan and the Mayor's Chief Strategy Officer, Peter Amon, for listening to us and working with us to try to look at the legislative approach that needs to be taken to deal with this. Because people will get these licenses, they'll get them in other people's names, they'll maintain nuisances at these places, but they operate outside of the law. We recently had to track someone down and have them physically arrested because they wanted to continue to operate. I also want to thank the law department for stepping in and doing what needs to be done for license revocation. Liquor license is very valuable to these people. They make a lot of money. Are we going to go after them? Absolutely. We do not want people engendering this atmosphere of terror when people are seeking to go out and do the things that they need to do. We also have to look at what we've done with our nuisance actions. We have properties at 1425 Joseph E. Boone Avenue, 100% compliance. 2980 Delmar Lane, 100% compliance. And I want you to understand that these places were abandoned, burned out, they were havens for crimes. They were making music videos at these places with weapons, and I'm not trying to pick on any particular genre of music, but they were making music videos. And now, guess what? These places are where families are raising their children. These are places that are now coming to compliance. And so these are just some examples of some of the things that we're doing with these multifamily dwellings and will continue to do with the support that you give us. We've also obtained a favorable judgment on places like 3190 Camilton Road. And yes, the place is still there. And that's because we have what I would call a bad actor that's just determined to violate the law. And they now tie us up in the appellate process. So I want you to understand that there's a flip side to success. And I like to use sports analogies. What happens when a team has a big victory in basketball? The other team goes, they study the film, they make adjustments, and then they come back. And that's what we have going on. We had a really good role of being able to close down a lot of these nightclubs and things. And so what these bad actors doing now, they're studying the film and they say, okay, well, what we'll do now is tie them up in the appellate courts. But I do want you to understand that we're digging in. We're going to fight all the way. And justice delayed will not turn into justice denied. We're still going to get justice with these places. And these are just some examples of some of the things that we've done. We know that these things are ongoing. We know that these party houses are going to pop up. We have one place on Chester Bridge Road, even when they lose their liquor license, they're still trying to operate. And so I want to commend the Atlanta Police Department. I want to commend the undercover operations that they do, because if they lose their liquor license, you know what they're doing. They're trying to sell out the back door or sell under the table. So these undercover operations are very important to us. This is an example of the success that we've had in this area with non-display of license. You go in a place and there's no license up, you know something's wrong. Where's your license? We have had people, of course, that ignore our hours of operation. And we have been able to get a few with regard to underage sales of alcohol. So we've successfully done over 4,000 of those cases. Our year in review with regard to an opportunity for all, Ms. Burnett, our diversion chief, and her team, they have worked to try to increase our access to everyone in the city. So one of the things they looked at is, let's take all of our programs, all of our materials, and let's make sure that we put them in Spanish also. And so we've been able to do that. We have also updated our educational materials that we do. And one of the things that we are seeing here in 2025, we're now seeing an increase with our walk-ins. COVID-19 devastated it. The courts weren't able to function. People weren't able to come in and participate in these programs. We're now seeing an uptick. We're reviewing our process, especially with our accident cases. It used to be that people would think that, well, if you're in an accident, you're just automatically disqualified from diversion. That's not true. It depends on what the circumstances of each case. There may be a situation, had a city employee recently that actually bumped another car because that car wouldn't pull off when they were supposed to. And they were looking away to actually help a citizen who was about to be hit by a car. Well, sure, that should qualify. So although technically it's an accident case, we find ways and we work with our investigators. We beefed up the investigative unit in that area to be able to reach out to make sure that victims are satisfied, to make sure that the insurance matters have been taken care of, so these people can also participate in the program. Well, what has resulted is actually an uptick in the process. Just to give you an idea, it brings in over $3 million a year in fees, so it actually produces revenue. But the other thing that happens is that the participants have an opportunity to really take responsibility for being safe drivers. And just to give an idea of where we're headed with this, in our first quarter of 2024, there were 2,700 participants. That number has now doubled for the first 3 months of 2025. Now we have over 4,000 participants. So we'd like to think that the things that Ms. Burnett and her team has done has actually had an impact on increasing the participation. You may notice there that in the middle around this time last year, that's a little dip. Well, that's seasonal based on police bookings. So that's not unusual. And then it goes back up. As you know, police bookings aren't fluid through each month. There are periods of times where they go up and down. There's also normally a dip around October that takes place. But then what happens November, December, it goes back up with shoplifting and those types of things that are related to seasonal. A city of opportunity for all. I really have to commend our community prosecution team. You've seen them. They probably have gotten on your nerves, calling you, asking you to co-sponsor events. And please blame me for that. But we appreciate you all working with us because it's extremely important. It's an outreach to kids at every level, high school, our students that are interested in pursuing law. Our attorneys participate, and we've been very proud to participate with the Young Litigators Project. If I may take a moment, these are kids that are entering into, I guess you would call it the middle school area, that are actually studying real cases and debating cases, and it gets them involved in the community. We work, of course, with our MPUs, with our drug awareness programs. We're very proud to be a part of the mayor's Midnight Basketball Program, the mayor's reentry resource. And let me tell you something about our senior citizen events, because they're going to be expanding to include people of all ages. You've heard the old saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of correction, where that's absolutely correct. If we can get to people early enough, this is what the whole community prosecution concept is based on, and that is getting in front of the criminal activity, to have people to understand. If you look at the level of cybercrime that is taking place with our seniors, we have presenters that come there from all various areas of new and innovative ways that people have decided to break the law. And we actually educate our seniors. So I like to say that the city of Atlanta is definitely going to have some of the best educated seniors in the country to guard up against people that are trying to rob them of their property and sometimes put them in danger. And I want to especially talk about ADF, our fire department, who is there with us all the time with tips. We were also happy that our city attorney invited us to be a part of the mayor's senior wheels and estate planning events. I understand that those events will be continuing. So stay tuned. Part of our ongoing is to start involving people at every level. A city built for the future. And that is doing what? Leveraging technology to enhance efficiency in terms of our case preparation and presentation. We also have been deepening our relationships with our prosecution partners, especially the Fulton County Solicitor's Office. We are coordinating what's called Operation Double Victory, which basically provides a way to help resolve misdemeanor cases. And you say, well, Mr. Carter, how are you involved in misdemeanor? We're involved in them every day. Our jail calendar is full of these misdemeanors: domestic violence, shoplifting, minor drug violations. There are times when we look at the situation and we're not out on the street with the officer, so the officer makes a charging decision. Well, when the case gets in the court, the witness is standing there and saying, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell the officer he had a knife. And I say, okay, well, guess what? We're not going to do your case here. This case is going to a higher court. So that's how it happens with regard to our jail calendar. And we've done some things in terms of technology. Please check out our website. We've had some partners to really work with us, in particular our Department of AIM. We want to thank them. We're trying to make things more accessible. Ms. Henderson goes on the website and she pulls off those comments and she comes into me and she said, we need to do something about this. So we are very sensitive to how that works, and we really appreciate that. We want to continue to educate our citizens, our users, and to do this. And please keep in mind that our record restriction process is online now, so a person can apply online for record restriction. And I want to thank Councilmember Westmoreland, who years ago put forth the legislation on commercial harassment. And we actually have where we receive those commercial harassment complaints. And these are where people are being threatened about their property. By the way, we're all victims of commercial harassment. Who hasn't gotten a text message or an email? Hey, you want to sell your house? You want to sell your property? Cash offer. But can you imagine how this bears upon our elderly community when we have this constant harassment? One of our worst cases that took place in a neighborhood was where an older lady actually saw people out measuring off her property. They had measuring things and taking photographs, and we were able to get somebody out there to assist her. So these things are very important. And again, these are just little clips from the updated website. Effective and ethical government. This has to be very near and dear to our hearts. We're a prosecution office. We prosecute people for crimes. It is extremely important that people follow our rules. We want to thank all of the city departments, the interdepartmental and intergovernmental departments that work with us on our joint inspections when we're going out, looking at properties and other things that take place. We're happy for the opportunities to educate and train our Atlanta Police Department on courtroom testimony and demeanor. It enables the officers to get a real-time view of what it's like in court. Officer comes out of the academy. He or she has never really done a case. So our team actually goes in and presents a mock case for them to have them look at various techniques about testifying in court. Things as simple as don't look down or don't nod in agreement with the defense attorney when he's asking you a question, because basically what you're doing is saying, yes, you're right. Well, those things actually come with training and experience. And so we're happy to do that. We really look forward to working with APD on the new e-citation program. We think this is going to be a game changer. And it's just like Chief Shearbaum said, as large as we are, we've been a little bit behind the 8 ball than other jurisdictions. But the truth is, some of these smaller jurisdictions can go and implement something like that. We're the city of Atlanta, so it takes a bigger bite for us to do the things. We're very proud of our annual DUI training that we do, and we have people from the Georgia State Patrol, other enforcement agencies that join in with us for the training. We do it at the Atlanta Technical College. And we also are trying to just continue to build relationships. So more recently, we were contacted by the Georgia World Congress Center Police, and they, of course, were able to do an agreement to enforce city ordinances. We were very proud to be able to actually train that police force on city ordinances, because a lot of things happen around their properties. A lot of things happen around their properties. We have an ongoing relationship, of course, with Marta Police, with the chief and everybody. So we're very happy to do those types of things in real-time form. What's ahead? Where are we going? We are going to continue to support the mayor's initiatives and each and every one of your initiatives. They are very important to us. You put yourselves out there. Constituents can and are demanding, and they have an expectation of all of us that we do some things. We feel bad when we fall down. So we've got to be better. So we're going to continue to work to improve our internal procedures. Recently, we had one of our judges sit down with us, sharp judge, and said something didn't look right in terms of our presentation of evidence. Well, guess what we found out? We found out there was a quirk in an ordinance. One of our ordinances, 24-0-1530, had an error in it where the language, when it was submitted in ELMS that we wanted to delete, was not deleted, and it involved the service of civil citations in the housing court. Well, guess what? We've done a corrective ordinance on it, and guess what? You all have already passed it. So that is something specific that can answer the question as to why things might seem to get hung up in the court system. Sometimes there's something like that, and so we're just happy to have a judge to point that out, and we were happy to be able to go in and do it. We're going to continue our collaborations with Fulton County, aggressively pursue commercial properties and these licensed venues. If you take a look at the next slide, this is what Jordan Williams and the team are doing. We are looking at the initiatives from the administration, and we're looking at the tools that we can use. You all have already passed this legislation, so we're getting ready to move forward with it. The multifamily dwellings, so we've already have results on that. So we have ongoing cases that we will continue to bring. But also, you all, Councilmember Amos, really pushed this, the blight tax. So guess when those tax bills are going to hit? They're going to hit the 1st of 2026. So we already have cases that have been brought to our attention. And of course, judicial in rem is a tool for those severely hazardous problems with chronic violations. You can just about go anywhere in the city and pick out one property in just about every council district that needs some type of catalytic treatment because it's been so bad and so ongoing. Well, this is what we're going to do. I want to thank the law department for working with us on this to get this started. Our first cases are being brought. There are about a total of about 13 cases in the hopper that we will be working on to make sure that we have an impact as we move into FY2026. Let's take a look at our position count in our fund. As you can see, we averaged about 20 vacancies, but let me give you a little added information on that. For calendar year 24, we actually had 16 new hires. For FY25, starting last July, 11 people came in. What is happening, of course, is what happens in the legal field. You get talent in, you develop it. People love coming to start their careers in the solicitor's office. Why? Because you don't have time to sit in the office. I have to put you in court. So in a couple of weeks, you're in court in front of a judge. Now, once you do that, and you do it well, and you do it for a couple of years, what do? You sit down and explore your options and say, you know, I could really move into something else, perhaps a judgeship or something. So I want you to understand that this is not unusual. This is the nature of that business. But at the same time, I'm happy to say that we get people that come from other prosecutors' offices, people that have dealt with violent crime, very egregious situations. And they're looking what? They're looking for a change in pace. They say, this is too gruesome. I don't want to look at any more homicide photos. Let me go over to the city and tackle some of those issues that they're tackling. So it kind of flows back and forth to have you understand that that's why it looks that way. If you look at, of course, the general fund, you can see that we have followed the trend of what's been happening with some of the other law enforcement agencies like police, fire, the law department, where our actuals have always been somewhere like over $1 million. But then, of course, we had an adopted budget that was under that amount. But then when you get back into our actuals projections, here we are approaching that again. So what you are seeing is with this proposed 18% or so, well, 19% increase is actually the same thing that you've been hearing about, trying to right size it in terms of what our actually activities have been as opposed to what the projections have been. Now, there's something else that's baked into ours, and let me explain to you what that is. The initial $800,000, a little under $1 million, that was used for the Safe and Secure Housing Initiative, that came out of the Housing Trust Fund. Well, that's not being done anymore. So that's been incorporated into our budget. So that's what you're seeing in terms of the amount. And that accounts for like seven positions. So I wanted you to understand that that's why that particular slide looks that way. And with those comments, again, thank you all so much for what you do, for listening to my presentation, and we are open for your questions.
All right. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Bakhtiari.
Thank you. First, before I start, I've absolutely had frustrations, but I really want to thank DC Smith for coming and speaking with me. And there is nothing that I have mentioned that we can't work through together. So I will start reaching out more to see how we can work through some of these things. So I'm not just being condescending behind a mic. So I need to do more of my part as well. I did want to ask about the initiative like junior prosecutor and the safe and secure housing initiative and ask what percentage of the budget is going towards those initiatives. And you may have already mentioned that. I'm just asking for additional
Okay,
clarification.
no, that's a very thoughtful question, and you're very perceptive. We basically, if you look at it in terms of a percentage, it would be what, maybe a little less than 10%. It would be maybe a little less than 10%.
Okay.
That's allocated for that.
I think that is a very solid amount. Would love to learn more. And you mentioned up on the slide with Fulton County Operation Double Victory.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yes. What we found in the city of Atlanta, Fulton County, and it's very interesting because you have these discussions all the time about the jail and other things. As you know, both are pulling on the same tax base. You know, your Fulton County taxpayer and your city of Atlanta taxpayer. Solicitor General Keith Gamage came to me and said, you know, let's take a look at this because we have a certain number of cases that are bound over. Then we have a certain number of cases that are done by the Atlanta Police Department. Now, in addition to us, he has maybe 15, 16 other jurisdictions. I keep forgetting how many counties are in Fulton now, but I know it's in the high teens. And he said, why don't we start working together? Let's cross-swear our attorneys and let's work on some of those cases that are coming to you that should come to us and vice versa. So what we did is we started looking at our jail calendar. For example, a disorderly conduct 1 is violence towards another person. Well, so is aggravated assault. So is simple battery. And so what we're finding is that the same incidents are being done, but it's based on how it was charged by the officer. So we thought it would be a good way to increase efficiency and also to save taxpayer dollars by collaborating on some of these cases that cross over from the city to the county. And that's what started Operation Double Victory. Now, we also do that in the area of DUI cases. And this is something very interesting because I know that you have worked hard to try us to get a handle on this possession of marijuana. Well, in the state code, the possession of marijuana still has what's called concurrent jurisdiction between the county and the city. So if those cases are brought to us, we can talk to APD about that. If those cases are brought to us, that gives us an opportunity to look at diversion, to look at the ordinance that you put together for us. And so Mr. Gamage and I have actually talked about that. What does he want with a possession of marijuana less than an ounce case sitting on his desk that was done by an APD officer when we could have handled it? So those are the kind of issues that we've been discussing with Operation Double Victory. And I just appreciate his approach that he's taking about it.
Happy to hear that. Thank you. You spoke about the blight piece as well. So residential blight, we're moving well on that, and I believe that the administration has a phase 2 around commercial that they want to start as well. And
Okay, Jordan, would you like to speak on that? This is Jordan Williams.
Hi there, Jordan Williams, Special Properties Team. So we are currently working with Mayor's Office of Policy team and Department of City Planning, Code Enforcement, and we do have a collection of commercial properties that we're currently evaluating.
thank you as well. So the piece that you were talking about in terms of what we are FY2026, we'll have kind of a hit on some of the tax pieces, but we're moving through some of these blighted properties.
Yes, and we are building the cases.
Okay, and thank you. And also, is the initiative around cleaning of deeds to remove problem properties or to assist owners that are currently caught in probate, is that something that the solicitor's office is also being charged with?
We are working also with the Mayor's Office of Policy on heirs properties, and we'll also talking to the Public Defender's Office. So it will not be handled in-house, but we will work with the appropriate parties on it.
Understood. I look forward to learning more. And thank you for that update. And I have one last question, then I'll yield time. Ms. Erica Smith was, we had a hoarding case that went back over 20 years. This individual obviously was mentally ill, had issues with hoarding. It was exacerbated by going through the system repeatedly. And the city helped with counseling. The city helped with a number of things. We did multiple cleanups that cost a lot of money. We had to do a clean and close, not a clean and close, I'm sorry. We had to do foreclosure on the fines because they were so high. And I'm asking if there are ways, I mean, obviously wanted to support this gentleman because he had issues that he needed assistance with and was not well resourced enough to handle them. But at the same time, is there a way to approve efficiencies around foreclosures, around liens on properties, around hoarding in a way that does not take away financial? Is there a more efficient way to do this process so the city can assist in improving upon?
Well, you're right. There are definitely ways that we can do that. And that's what we've been doing with our kind of multi-department team. It's interesting that we actually follow the Office of Buildings, for them, because we're actually working with them on some of those issues. And what we like to do, especially as we get into the areas with blight tax, with some of the smaller commercial establishments, we are seeking to increase our relationships with the state, because one thing that you all have noticed, a lot of these small establishments, what's really the draw? It's the gaming machines. It's the gaming machines.
You gotta love an illegal payout.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. I mean, yeah, they might go and buy a drink. So if you notice, and we actually, had people working with us with the M.O. King corridor to clear out some of those gaming machines. When you are able to shut down those gaming machines, because what do? They stay, they play the games, and then they go to the freezer and buy a beer. Then they're there, and then here comes, their adversary to start a fight, and then we get them. So the whole thing kind of works together in terms of dealing with the environment that actually engenders the violence. So if we can work on taking away the draws of that environment, I think it would be great. So we would like to really sit down with you on that, because you have some of those kind of issues that we've seen, and it's time for us to do a different approach. Now, what are the bad actors? They're going to try to find another way to do it, but that's fine. They got to find another way to do it. Let's stop the way they're doing it now.
Thank you. And I would be remiss, as I've said, frustrations, but nothing that we can't figure out. And I do have to commend the lawyers that are in your department that helped with 29 Moreland in the Commons, 2 huge properties that we have abated to a degree, and we'll also be able to make a big announcement about next month. So I do appreciate you all. Again, Ms. Smith, thank you for coming and talking with me, and we'll continue to sit down and figure it out together.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Solicitor Carter and this entire team, for the great work you all do. I would like to say thank you for expanding the safe and secure housing effort. They are very aggressive and do a wonderful job along the M.L. King and Fairburn Road corridors. We have had great results from the safe and secure housing efforts. Please make sure that we keep that fully funded, because they're very, very aggressive, and that's what we need in some of our businesses along those corridors. I saw the Delmar Lane project. Ms. Smith, thank you for your many years of hard work. I know it feels good to see that go from Sierra Ridge to a vibrant community, nice streets, speed humps, and just a wonderful place where our community can thrive. And many of our seniors are moving in on Delmar Lane because it looks so much better. So, Ms. Smith, thank you for the many years spent along that corridor. And I would like to see us go back to some of our sessions with Fight the Blight. We would have sessions on Saturdays and bring our neighbors in. We had those at different places in the community. That was key, Fight the Blight, because they would understand what you all can do, what Ms. Tally can do, and just keep the community educated, because I think right now we're just throwing everything at you all. Bull 37 Lyndhurst Drive. We really need attention on Bull 37 Lyndhurst Drive. Those same gaming machines were there. That since the business is closed now, trash is there, people are hanging around, and we need to do something to make the community safer along that Lyndhurst Drive corridor. I'd also like to see Mr. Bruce DeLay back out doing those things that, I mean, they did a wonderful job. Not just my area, but I knew they used to be on Donnelly Hollowell, going into those businesses, and it made a difference when they knew that someone was going to show up. So I just want to thank you all for all that you all do for the city, solving problems, and whatever we can do to assist you. Please let us know. And also, I understand you all have a lot of folks that are coming back to work now.
Yeah.
So that's good, that's good, that's good. So thank you for your efforts in that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you. I need a little clarification about an aspect of your budget. So this follows some of the trend lines we're seeing, throughout the organization. But relatively speaking, kind of your department's a winner in the budget sweepstakes that is FY2026. And so where is that being directed, assuming it's going more to one place or purpose than any other? Is that code enforcement?
It is. You're correct.
In the form of people?
Yeah, it's not only in the form of people, but it's also in form of litigation expenses. One of the things that you're seeing that we haven't done in the past, that's traditional code enforcement that's in municipal court, is that we are now enforcing in Superior Court based upon injunctive relief. And so with those types of actions, there are litigation expenses. And one of the things that Jordan and his team are looking at is that you can end up having all the positions settled, everything is settled in the budget, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got $500,000 in litigation expenses. Because people are going to fight you when you're trying to shut them down and when you're trying to demolish them. And what's so amazing about it is we have this one bad actor, and Ms. Smith knows who I'm talking about, where we have shut down 3 of his nightclubs. He's now popped back up in one of our districts, purporting to be a restaurant with with steak and that type of thing. But when you look at the place, everything is all blacked out. You can't even see in there. So you know that this is not a legitimate restaurant. So I must say that what you'll see, and if you look at purchase contracted services where we've had to reach out for expertise, you can see that has always exceeded the adopted. So what finance did was took a look at that and say, well, let's just go ahead and let's appropriate more. And that's why you're seeing, if you look, that goes up 138%. Well, that's because it's those litigation expenses. In the municipal court itself, the litigation expenses are us, the staff. But when you go to Superior Court, we have about 5. Ronnie, how many cases do we have before the Court of Appeals now? I know there are 3 we've been talking about.
I think it's 8.
8? Okay. We have 8 cases before, thank you. We have 8 cases before the Court of Appeals. So those are litigation expenses. So those are the kind of expenses that you always see associated with the law department, and they should. Well, because we're taking on bigger actors now, these people are coming and they're appealing now. So we have to be able to meet what they're doing because we want these places shut down. Good actors are different. We had this particular apartment complex, Jordan can tell you, 7 courts. Not only were they a good actor, but they're doing the demolition, they're doing, and they pay a certain amount of money. into the city. So that's what we want to do. But we also understand that the bad actors, they're just going to come at us. So that's part of what you're seeing.
Okay. And indeed, the 25 adopted line for purchasing contracted services so much lower than 24 actuals and 20 compared to 25 projections. And that's been a theme, and that's clearly one of the reasons FY25 was overheating before it pulled out of the driveway. All right. Well, I want to thank Ms. Smith and you and your team on behalf of my constituents, you know, whether it's more recently 3511 Roxborough, or the 4 times we've worked on the noise ordinance, transforming Buckhead Village from a place where people were routinely murdered on hot summer weekends to the family-friendly, largely unaffordable retail complex it is now. John Jennings.
Oh yeah, we go back a ways. You know, I am so glad that you said noise ordinance because I got it. When Councilman Shook first in a budget hearing asked me about the noise ordinance, you saw that deer in the headlight kind of look. But let me tell you what I appreciated about it. It taught me to pay attention to my cases. Any category, I should be ready with any category, and I really appreciate it. Councilman Shook actually sat down with us, and we actually reached out. I think Amber Robinson worked with us. We went to a real party city, Athens, Georgia, right? Home of the Bulldogs, and studied their ordinance, and Councilman Shook actually put an ordinance in place. I have some statistics going back a couple of years, just a second. Prior to putting the ordinance in place, we had 8 noise ordinance cases, and we lost half of them. Since this ordinance has been put in place, and this is going back to year and year, those numbers have quadrupled. We generally have between 36 to 50 noise ordinance cases. Last year we had 30. We got fines on 18 of them. The rest of them FTA. So you know how that goes. So as soon as we find them, we'll get them too. But I just want you all to realize what a difference that makes in a certain area. And now that our city is growing and we have all of this wonderful development with all the construction noise, it actually impacts our quality of life. And so I know you might get mad with me, but thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciated working on that.
All right.
With you.
Well, and thank y'all. All right. Y'all are released on your own recognizance, which clears the way to bring up the Office of Public Defender, who will close us out this afternoon. Okay. And they can be found on page 419 of your budget book. good? All right, good afternoon. It's time for the Office of the Public Defender. Copies of their handout are being passed around now, and so without further ado, Mr. Director, introduce us to your staff and take it away, please.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, council members.
Afternoon.
I am Kenneth Days. I am the Director and Chief Public Defender for the City of Atlanta's Office of the Public Defender. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for the opportunity to present our department's proposed FY2026 budget today, and thank this council generally for being supportive of our department and our department's initiatives, and especially our community outreach efforts, and of the work we do every day to support the legal and social needs of our citizenry. Today we have our operations manager, Ms. Tika Strickland, to my far left. To my far right is Mr. Dennis Collier, one of our deputy directors, and to my immediate left is Mr. John Tapia, another one of our deputy directors. The Public Defender's Office's mission is to provide client-centered, holistic representation to persons charged with offenses in the Municipal Court of Atlanta, which includes the provision and referral of restorative social services such as housing, employment, and substance dependency treatment to reduce or eliminate an individual's contact or inclusion in the criminal legal system. Simultaneously, we work to improve the quality of life for each client and provide stability to their respective communities. Our department has a full-time staff of extremely dedicated attorneys, investigators, client advocates, social workers, and legal support, all who work diligently to assist client needs and to ensure a continuation of exceptional, nationally recognized provision of services. On our operation chart, this shows our senior management, and that they are supported by, of course, our staff leadership and our various operational divisions. And with that, I will move directly to some of our current accomplishments for FY25. As a client-centered holistic legal practice, we've sought to actively support the administration's key pillars. Our first big accomplishment, under the umbrella of One Safe City, having thus far handled a little bit more than 6,000 cases this year, we've successfully disposed also of just under 1,000 DUI backlog cases. We also represented more than 2,000 clients that were arrested in this fiscal year and initiated at least 22 appellate issues thus far. Under the umbrella of City Opportunity for All, we're very proud to have connected 526 individuals thus far. We're still counting to needed services, which includes jobs or treatment or housing, or really any other service need that is presented through our intake process by the staff of the Public Defender's Office. And thirdly, we'd like to point out, under the umbrellas of both a City of Opportunity for All and One Safe City, that approximately 40% of our work is outside of the courtroom. And so our staff of 43 made a total of 312 appearances to date so far at community service events that were originated from this department. So that amounts to about 7 appearances per staff member out in the community doing some very important work. So what's new for us for FY26? What do we anticipate? Well, the first thing is we anticipate continuing to increase the number, anticipate our continued increase in the number of cases that are appointed to our department, which has been consistent in the past 3 years. And so what we're doing is we are working to ensure that we're able to initiate strategies that will allow us to remain competitive in both our recruitment and our retention of staff members. We also expect to continue our aggressive push to support our clients in obtaining access to services, particularly in this climate where current funding reductions have hit some of our social service provider partners pretty hard. And lastly, we're going to maintain our successful growth in our community education programming. We host a number of legal clinics, and we will continue to do so. We engage in a number of Know Your Rights presentations, which work to significantly reduce negative encounters with law enforcement. And we are actively working with our legacy residents to remain code compliant and to protect and maintain their respective homes. So we have a lot of initiatives on the horizon that we are seeking. On our fourth slide, as you can see, currently we have 43 filled positions, 7 of which are vacant, for a total position count of 50. On slide 5, our adopted budget for this past year was $5,484,000. Our proposed budget for FY2026 is $6,058,000, which represents about a 10% variance. And of course, there are some anticipated adjustments in the proposed budget, and that is within the purchase and contractual services for about $22,000. That is based on our reduced need for some computer hardware and the renegotiation of our current contract with our copier. We've got a reduction in supplies of about $57,000, a little bit over $57,000, and that's based on a reduction in our anticipated need for court reporter services. We had a number of appeals last year which required anticipated funding that we had not counted on, mandated to have private court reporter services, which it gets more and more expensive every year. But we don't foresee that same need. And also we have some association memberships that are not going to be renewed. And so therefore the necessity for the $57,000 is where that adjustment comes into place. And the third one for the capital outlays, last year we had that amount for a vehicle. And of course, we do not anticipate the need to purchase a vehicle for FY26. So that is the adjustment for the $50,000. On slide 6. We're going back to the, I think I went ahead a little bit too quick. So about 93% of our budget, as you can see, is related to personnel expenditures, and that's about a 2% increase from FY25. And last year, the variance was increased due to some anticipated staffing required to meet the needs of our courtrooms and our increase in caseloads, particularly in custody and DUI courts. Our department is always cognizant to try to attempt to accurately anticipate our department's projected needs and a need to be fiscally responsible, but we also balance that with making sure that we are also compliant with the American Bar Association's national standards for attorney and client ratios to support our staff. Right now, we believe that this proposed budget will meet our needs, and what we project is allowing for a gradual alignment in our staffing. And we'd like to, at this time, just give the appropriate credit to our mayoral administration, as well as the Department of Finance and HR, who is present and have been very supportive of us, and the mayor's innovation and delivery team, who've all worked diligently to help us craft the proposed budget that meets our needs. And with that, we will happily take any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. So you've explained what's behind the reduction, but let's look back a little bit and what explains how differently 25 projected is going to look from 25 adopted?
For 26 adopted or 26 projected? Or 25 projected?
No, 25 projected. Excuse me, 25 adopted versus 25 projected.
Do you mind repeating your question? The first part.
Yeah, I'm looking at your personnel services and employee benefits line specifically.
Yeah, so our personnel services, that was
Councilmember Shook, if I could just chime in real quick. So Yolanda Carr, Deputy CFO. So when we look at the projections that we have, that was as of December. And so as departments go through the process, we are going to be looking at the third quarter projections for March. So that number could be slightly different from what we have here just because of the run rate and what we're seeing in some of the positions that they have. But you can go ahead if you want to share additional information.
Yeah, and my apology for my brief confusion. But also, some of the difference in those numbers accounted for some of our personnel. We tend to have about a 10% attrition rate. I think our rate was a little bit higher this year. So we had some staffing shortages that we need to do some emergency funding for, and also the compensation study. I think that made an adjustment or required an adjustment in our in some of our positioning.
Okay. That's really my question. Does anyone else have any questions for this department? All right, it looks like the answer to that is no. So thank you for your very brief and concise budget presentation. We appreciate it. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Some process notes for our tens of viewers. Tomorrow, we will resume at 10 o'clock here with the Office of the IG, followed by Ethics, followed by Auditor. After lunch, it'll be Aviation, Grants, and Community Development. We'll wrap up with the Department of Customer Service. We are having 2 public hearings tomorrow. One begins at 6, and that is for the tax mill rate as published. And per state law, we can only take questions around that topic. We anticipate that we will then quickly go into a 6:15 public hearing on the budget, and that will be, as we've done in some years past, that'll be in an interactive format where you can reach out to us via social media, email, et cetera. And so until then, we are recessed. Thank you.